and our number one objective is to work and assist the Chinese people in getting their freedom. And their freedom only comes with one simple thing: the complete and total destruction of the Chinese Communist Party. Ladies and gentlemen, Natalie Winters from the National Pulse.
Thank you. Wow, it is such an honor to be here as both a journalist and someone who lives in Washington, D.C. It's not often that I'm surrounded by so many people who also want to take down the Chinese Communist Party. So it really... I was going to say it's a beautiful day and I'm glad to be here, but unfortunately I can't say that. But I still think that it is a beautiful day because all of you are here and there are so many people here who are united in the common goal of taking down the Chinese Communist Party and exposing how far their reach is both in the United States, in the West, and really all across the globe. So for those who aren't familiar with my work, I'm an investigative reporter at the National Pulse. I report primarily on the Chinese Communist Party. It's my favorite topic to report on. And I don't need to tell you guys about how deep the Chinese Communist Party has its hooks and tentacles in American society. You guys know that very well. Both of some of you are dissidents. You guys have blown the whistle and been brave enough to tell your stories about how ruthless and repressive the Chinese Communist Party is. But let's get one thing straight. The Chinese Communist Party has seized the means of cultural production in the United States. They've seized the means of production, quite literally. They own our factories. They own our manufacturing capabilities. They've seized the means of mainstream media production. They quite literally own and control the United States of America. And someone needs to fight back. And so it's people like you, it's outlets like the National Pulse, it's shows like War Room that are brave enough to do that. And it really is an important fight because without voices like yours, like mine, like the wonderful work of Stephen K. Bannon, we wouldn't be here today. And we wouldn't have really flipped the tide, changed the tide on COVID-19, or as I like to call it, the Chinese Communist Party virus. And I like to talk most about how the Western media outlets are really at the beck and call of the Chinese Communist Party. And I think that there's probably no better example of this than a story that I broke a few months ago about how journalists from every single mainstream media outlet, who something tells me they're probably not in this room, or if they are and those are their cameras, I'd like to speak directly to them. But like I said, something tells me they're not here because they don't want anyone to know that the Chinese Communist Party is under threat because we will take them down. We know that, right? But But these journalists were taking trips from the Chinese government, quite literally an organization part of the United Front, and upon returning to the United States, they were coerced into giving the Chinese Communist Party, quote, favorable coverage and disseminating positive messages about the Chinese Communist Party, all in exchange for just a free trip to China. That's a pretty high return on investment, if you'd have to ask me. But this is the kind of disinformation warfare that we see every single day in the United States. And that's why more and more American people are starting to wake up and not only realize, which they should have a long time ago, that our mainstream media outlets don't report the truth, don't report the facts, they just report narratives, but that those narratives are made in China, like most things nowadays, in the United States. So what really is the bigger picture here is that we need to get the Chinese Communist Party out of American society, right? We need to understand the grip that they have over every facet, every aspect of America. There's organizations and institutions that are setting curricula in kindergarten classrooms, who are partnered with Chinese Communist Party publishing houses that publish socialist nursery rhymes, that publish nursery rhymes about, quite literally, Xi Jinping and Mao Zedong. That's serious, right? So it's no surprise that you see the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement up there praising Mao Zedong and quite literally quoting from him about the 100 Flowers campaign, right? There's a direct link between these movements in the United States that want to subvert every value that we have that has been quintessential and crucial to the American experiment since the founding of this country, and the fact that the Chinese Communist Party wants to see America fall. So I thank you for the work that you guys are doing as a movement, because it can be really, really, really quiet and lonely sometimes being in the West and reporting on the Chinese Communist Party, because all the other voices who are talking about it are quite literally taking money from the Chinese government, yet they never disclose it. And all they do is just purvey their propaganda and their talking points. And quite frankly, they want to make every single American be under the control of the Chinese Communist Party. And so I'll leave with this. I think that for those of you who listen to War Room, there's a movement going on right now within the Republican Party, which is really trying to take it in an America first direction, right? Make the country, make the United States a country that puts its workers first, everyone first, and its people first. And I think that there's a correlation between what you guys are trying to do with China, because you guys want to see a China that doesn't put the Chinese Communist Party first, but that puts everyone first, and that makes sure that every single Chinese citizen has a right to a life that is one of dignity, not one of repression, and that is primarily one of freedom. So I thank you for the work that you're doing. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to speak with you. I'm more than happy to talk with everyone after, and I think I'd be remiss to not conclude my speech with 6 words, which are, take down the Chinese Communist Party.